All right, people, we're back. It's the end of January. We've gotten all the lists, all the predictions out of the way. So now we're just back to our regularly scheduled content. And we're kicking it off with Apple TV Plus, who is basically in the last couple of years shown their hand as far as being like the next HBO, but on steroids when it comes to the budget. And Luke, I mean, they did not hold back with the budget of this show, to say the least.
No, we do sing the praises of Apple, and I'm sure we will in this episode. But this one, maybe their most impressive feat yet for me.
It may very well be. We're going to be breaking down Masters of the Air, which is the third production from Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks about World War II, following up with their previous success with Band of Brothers in the Pacific on HBO. All of that and more will be covered on today's episode of the Talking TV podcast. Stay tuned. All right, what's going on, Luke? So, like I said, we did the top 10s. We wrapped up 2023, and now we're officially into 2024. I just want to take a second and talk about, what kinds of content we've gotten so far within this first month. I mean, it's January, which means there's usually never anything good drop, but also about some of the content we've got coming up as well later on in the year before we officially transition into Masters of the Air. So as far as keeping track of like what TV shows have dropped, we've gotten a couple big ones so far. So we started off with Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which technically premiered at the end of 2023, but we've now kind of transitioned, and that's kind of like our first big kickoff show for 2024. That one's gotten some pretty decent reactions so far, at least from the book fan crowd. I'm realizing now that, like, upon watching that first episode, I was like, wow, I was really, really young when I read these and thought they were really ahead of their time. And the books,
I reread the first one just like before it came out, and like, oh, this isn't as good as it was.
It's always disappointing when something from your childhood just like doesn't affect you the same way as a young adult in this case. Like, don't get me wrong, like they're still incredibly well written and great for what they are, but definitely it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I remember laughing at this a lot harder when I was 12 than I do now at almost 27.
I still like the mythology aspect.
Yeah, that part's cool.
I just don't think there's like any depth to it, really. Like the direct comparison is Harry Potter, probably.
Yeah,
but that's like written better.
There's a reason why. Yeah, like I said, in the wake of the success of Harry Potter in the book world, there were a ton of book series that were kind of written in the spirit of it, and I read them all, like every single one of them. I read Percy Jackson, Artemis Fowl, Pendragon, Keys to the Kingdom. Like there were like 13 others that I'm not remembering. Rick Riordan like generated an entire universe based off of them. So we have that. We have the Ted prequel show on Peacock, which I still have not finished the first episode of, but it's pretty funny. Like I said, there's a reason why Seth MacFarlane is as successful as he is. When he hits, especially when he's like actually directly involved in something. And I think the Ted movies were really funny for what they are. I'm actually one of the few people I like the second one a little bit better than the first one because the second one just gets zanier and more ridiculous. And what I'll say about this is it's like he's trying again to do something serious, but my problem with anything Seth MacFarlane related is that he can never let himself just let the joke land. He always has to do like a random side cut in the middle to something out of nowhere. Like, see, look at this. Look at how random this thing is. Isn't it funny? And like
basically Family Guy. Those are the few things I've seen from
exactly. It's Family Guy. It's American Dad. Like they all start off solid, and I think he works a little bit better in animation format. Like he is capable of like really genuine stuff, but it's like he just can't help himself. He always has to go for like the gag, but not in like not like letting the joke finish itself naturally. He always has to just be like, oh, here's something else wacky to cut to. Here's some other random pop culture reference. So we'll see if that one gets better. We have the 4th season of True Detective Night Country. This is the first season of the show that is not executive produced by Nick Pizzolatto, who was the show's creator and was involved in the first 3 seasons. This is an entirely new show running team. This is Issa Lopez and Barry Jenkins who are producing this one. It stars Jodie Foster and Callie Ray. They cut the episode count from 8, which is what it normally is, to 6. It takes place in Alaska. The mystery this time is Jodie Foster and Callie Reyes' character are investigating a team of scientists who have mysteriously disappeared. And there's a bunch of other like crazy potential, Native American, magic going on here as well. So it's got all the trappings of True Detective, which is that it's got like some really great suspenseful moments, these really isolated pockets of the country. And there's not much else that it has going for it now, unfortunately. I mean, we're only 2 episodes in, so we still have yet to see what the full mystery is. But already we have the typical, oh, Jodie Foster is like slightly racist towards Native Americans, and Callie Reyes, of course, is like dead set on avenging this Native girl who was killed, and nobody gave a shit. And it's like, okay, we've seen this before. Like, a couple good characters, a couple good performances. Christopher Eccleston's in it. John Hawkes is in it. What's her name? Fiona Shaw, ironically from Harry Potter, is in it. It's good. It's solid. It's nothing that I like hate, but it's definitely for me like the weakest of the 3 True Detective seasons. I'm also somebody who religiously defends season 2. I think that and thinks that one got a really, really bad rap when that came out. And then the last one before we get into Masters of the Air is we have this Netflix miniseries from the same creators of Narcos that just premiered literally a day before Masters of the Air. It's called Griselda on Netflix. It stars Sofia Vergara as a former Colombian call girl who basically ends up killing her second husband and moves to Miami and basically starts her own drug cartel. And I watched only the first episode, and it is fan-freaking-tastic, and I cannot wait to watch the rest of it. But I guess kind of where I'm going with kind of like summarizing all these shows is that like almost all these shows that I've described are between 6 and 7 episodes. For the most part, they're pretty much all going to be limited series runs, except for True Detective, which is kind of part of an ongoing, like, longevity series. But I guess my point is that I'm going for is that this is kind of the new wave of TV that we have to look forward to, right? The reason why this episode is entitled "The Beginning of a New Era of TV," and we talked about this, right, Luke, on our top 10 TV shows, which is where it felt like, because of the amount of shows that ended in 2023, it feels like we were like coming to the end of an era, called, the peak prestige TV era, which really kind of ended like when Game of Thrones started to transition into more blockbuster territory in 2015, 2016. And then we've had all these shows that have popped up in the last couple of years that have been like trying to straddle the line between like these big blockbuster franchises and still kind of maintaining what TV is. But I feel like with the ending of Succession, with the ending of Barry, with the ending of Ted Lasso and all these other shows we've had kind of, last year, what's left, on top of the fact that all of we still have another wave of shows that are ending starting this year, like Bad Batch, which is a show that we feel like just got started, is ending this year. Cobra Kai and Stranger Things will both be airing their final seasons within the next 6 to 8 months. Actually, no, probably longer, more like 12 to 24 months, if I'm being completely honest, because I think those shows both just started shooting. And kind of, I feel like this is what we have now to look forward to. This is like the new wave of blockbusters. This is essentially, we're going to have these mini series of like 6 to 7 episodes. If they get continuing seasons, it'll be anthology based because, like I said, you have all these massive stars that have transitioned onto TV that do not want to make the same amount of time commitments as it was previously within TV. And as long as the episode counts themselves are short, and like you're going with the streamers like Netflix and like Amazon, like Apple, which can afford to throw these massive budgets around, like this is kind of what we're going to see, where you essentially have, right, Masters of the Air, which again, there's a little bit of a precedent for this because this is the 3rd time that Spielberg and Hanks have done a show like this, following up with, Band of Brothers and The Pacific, which are the shows that they did on HBO. This show effectively has a budget that's almost to the level of like a Marvel movie. Like, I want to say that these episode counts has got to be like between 200, 300 million an episode. And it shows, like, my God, like just after the first episode alone, I'm jaw dropped with the visuals, just that alone.
Well, Dom, I'm a big enjoyer of Top Gun Maverick, and I definitely got some of that here. Not quite to the same level. Obviously, they're not flying real World War II planes, but I still got some of that feeling. I guess that's a testament to how much money they do pour into those sequences. Of course, all the other stuff is expensive too. You got to get the big stars, the Mr. Elvis himself, who's kind of elevating to that upper star level now off the back of Elvis, and now he's going to be in Dune. So that's great to see. But yeah, it's like the CG stuff that's just blowing me away. Like, and it looks movie level. I'm thinking, is this Apple's strategy that they're bringing big screen gravitas to the small screen? Is that what they're trying to set themselves apart from the HBOs and the Disneys? Because Disney's, they have their Marvel, but it still has that TV feeling, and we know that Marvel can't really do TV. But now Daredevil, so we'll see what that happens.
Which they finally acquiesce and be like, hey, maybe if we bring back the guys who made these great shows instead of all these people who have no idea what the hell they're doing, and we're trying to have it both ways, where we're doing like a movie but as an extended like 6-part TV show. It's like, it's not the same thing. So Daredevil, we'll see. Daredevil could be the beginning of something like new, because like they should have realized it the minute that they started like trying to treat that like they normally did, and the massive amount of fan reaction, they should have known they were screwing up. But no, I tend to agree, because like you were saying, Apple's strategy from the beginning, and rightfully so, as we've been saying for about 3 years now that we've been covering them, is go big or go home. Like literally, that's what I mean. They put out 2 of the biggest budgeted movies of this past year, and they actually had the balls to release them in theaters and not do the day and date streaming with Killers of the Flower Moon and Napoleon. Now obviously one of those was a lot better quality wise than the other one. But the point being is that if Apple's willing to shell out these massive budgets, like, it shows, because I mean, on all their shows, like, they are just shelling out money for the talent, for the effects. I mean, we literally just finished up 2023 with Monarch, a show that somehow almost had better effects than some of the Godzilla movies that we've seen recently, except for Godzilla -1, which of course was a masterpiece in its own right, where you effectively have like, and also, like I said, it's in the storytelling too, where they crack. I mean, this goes all the way back to Morning Show, which kind of like set the template for their model going.
That was like one of the first ones when Apple was starting off.
Right. Like they released, it was like Morning Show for All Mankind and C were like the first things that they like were really testing the waters. And then Ted Lasso becoming the phenomenon that it did. Like I said, they took a couple years for them to build up their slate, but they're finally starting to get to that level.
Even there, you say, I didn't know that For All Mankind was one of their first. That first season has like so many CG elements in the space stuff. So they had it from the beginning.
Yeah, they really had. And I mean, you look at their roster that they've done since then of both movies and TV shows. I mean, they've only within the first couple of years of their existence, they've got a Best Picture winner. Netflix still doesn't have a Best Picture winner, to put that in perspective. Like they scooped that up right out of Sundance, and the marketing for that still unlike anything I've ever seen, because leading up to that Best Picture race, like, literally nobody thought it was going to be Coda until like getting really close to the end. And then after a while, it's like, yeah, everybody's like, yeah, it's going to be Coda, So you got that. Like I said, that's the other thing too. They're also like shelling out for like, what's called for new talent. They are, like I said, Coda with Sean Heder, Cha-Cha Real Smooth with Cooper Raiff. So like Apple is definitely invested. And like I said, I know that it's so funny to me that the rest of Hollywood is like scratching their heads trying to figure out Apple's like end game. And like, I'm like, it's really not that difficult to figure out. Like, they don't need this streaming service. It's the same as like what Amazon is doing with Prime Video. They don't need these streaming services. They are clearly doing this as tax write-offs. What they are trying to do with these is trying to use their money to match the cultural imprint and essentially dictate the flow of entertainment and content going forward. They are essentially trying to take the Netflix model, which Netflix said from the beginning, they are directly attempting to compete with the traditional theatrical viewing model. And I would think it's safe to say that they effectively have done that.
Absolutely. They changed the game, and now everyone's following that game.
Yeah,
so Netflix are kind of being left behind in the dust, but now they've got like Last Airbender.
I would say that they've picked themselves up. After a rough couple of years, I would say that they have actually like quite surprised me, because a majority
I saw some figure that they had like a bunch of new subscribers. So I take my back.
And I gotta say, like I said, the content that they've been putting out recently, it's not like the typical Netflix, joke, wink, wink. This isn't actually that good, but it's just generated a ton of clicks and likes. They're actually, suffice to say, their content they've been putting out recently has actually been good. And like the last couple of Netflix things that I've watched, I've actually been like really impressed with and really, really enjoyed. Like I still have to watch Blue-Eyed Samurai, but everyone was going nuts about that one. Obviously, you and Eli had that one in his top 10. And like I said, so Amazon, they're focusing on the superhero and the action content. That's their bread and butter. The Boys, Invincible, everybody goes nuts for those. And also the action shows on there, your Reachers, your Jack Ryans, a couple others that I'm not remembering. Those are going well. But
that Citadel one that cost
Citadel,
like
exactly,
$1 billion,
right? Like that's their bread and butter. Like Amazon is essentially doing the Paramount Plus model, but when it comes to action, versus Paramount is primarily sticking to like westerns and espionage stuff. And Apple is trying to match HBO. Ever since HBO kind of went downhill with the whole Discovery buyout and merger, and now it's like, is it HBO? Is it Max? Who knows? They're axing content left and right. Zaslav's whole approach. It's a freaking mess. It's a freaking mess as it has been for a while. Like I said, now they're still working on this Harry Potter reboot. Who the hell knows? Like I said, James Gunn is doing his hardest.
And they have a bunch of DC shows coming through.
Right. And
Which,
even
it's been a year since that announcement almost. Like, how
yes.
many of those are going to get made?
Yeah, exactly. Like
That's my
supposedly he's
question.
like, yeah, it's like Creature Commandos is coming out this year, and then Waller and Peacemaker season 2 are next. I'm like, okay, like I'll so far the only thing that I believe that you're gonna make is Superman. So like, let's wait until Superman comes out, and then we'll go based on there. And the problem too also is that like because of the strike as well, all of their like really great content is like coming out like very very late. Like so you got a couple of other interesting miniseries coming out that we're gonna be talking about this year. You know, The Regime and The Sympathizer. With Kate Winslet and Robert Downey Jr. respectively. But like House of the Dragon is that like their only, I'm pretty sure, blockbuster IP that's coming out this year, and that won't be out until August. And then you've got Last of Us, Euphoria, and White Lotus, all of which are not set to come out until next year, which they have like explicitly confirmed. So that's a mess. So as far as like where that leaves Apple right now is in a position, you know, like I said, a couple of their shows have come to it. And like I said, Ted Lasso is over, C is over, but they've still got like a wave of new content. Slow Horses is still going strong, arguably just had its best season yet. Shrinking was a pretty massive hit overall. You know, like I said, they've got a couple movies that are coming out that are interesting. Like I said, they still have their indie acquisitions that they do every year. You know, Flora and Son, which came out in September of last year, didn't have like quite the impact that I was hoping it would, but that was still another excellent get from the great John Carney as well, the director of Sing Street and Once. But Apple right now, to me, is in the position to set themselves up as like the next, okay, we can be the next, we have nothing but quality, and we're going to have big ticket items. It's essentially doing what Netflix, essentially being the merger of Netflix and HBO, where we're going to be the culture, be the cultural shows, and we're going to have the content as well. So I don't know. I just wanted to like get your thoughts on that before we dive deeper into Masters of the Air, because like I said, this is a fascinating one to say the least.
They also have the Brad Pitt F1 movie coming out that I remembered. So that's going to be their money maker for the year. Exactly. If that's coming out this year.
That won't be this year. That got delayed because of the strike. That definitely won't happen until next year.
All right. Well, I'm still ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a good one.
But even so, I think I would want to mention something. I think there's still like loads of adaptations that are being in development, or like The Last of Us that sparked the whole video game thing. I think there's like, just to name a few, Horizon, God of War, Assassin's Creed, Fallout. Fallout, we're getting that this year.
Coming this year. Borderlands, I believe, is also coming out this year as a movie.
If that's been in development for like years, but that's just a whole nother list. There's still a lot of books that are very popular that have not been touched yet. So when they get to that, I think it's going to be interesting next decade. But yeah, I think Apple will be quite the player.
Yeah, some of the other
HBO can figure it out.
Also, supposedly, Severance season 2 will finally be back this year. But we've been waiting on that one for a while now. Like I said, Shrinking season 2 is currently up in the air. What's the other big one? Also, Alfonso Cuarón's Disclaimer, starring Cate Blanchett, which I've been waiting for forever, is supposedly coming out this year. I'm still waiting for that one. You've also got Slow Horses season 4 supposedly will be out this year, as well as Bad Monkey, which is the next in the line of Bill Lawrence shows that what's called after Ted Lasso and Shrinking. This one will star Vince Vaughn as well, so I'm really looking forward to that one. And a couple of the other ones, like I said, they're always releasing content, like tons of other. They've got a new science fiction show with Noomi Rapace. They've got that they've got that British procedural with Peter Capaldi that just came out. They've got one coming out with Maisie Williams and Ben Mendelsohn that looks solid. Some of the other ones that they've got set to come out this year: Sinking Spring, The Big Cigar, Presumed Innocent, Lady in the Lake, Manhunt, and then Sugar, which is this Colin Farrell show that was supposed to come out last year that I believe got delayed because of the strike. So, Luke, Masters of the Air. First things first, before we get into it, have you watched Band of Brothers and or The Pacific?
I have not, but I think I will need to.
Yeah.
Now
I watched the first couple of episodes of Band of Brothers. It's good. It's solid. I have not watched any of the Pacific, but immediately off the bat, upon like watching the first episode of Masters of the Air, I see kind of the setup for that, which is kind of like where you have your two focus characters that kind of like clue you in. It's like, okay, these are going to be like the leads of it. For Band of Brothers, it's Ron Livingston and Damian Lewis. And for here, it's Austin Butler and Callum Turner's characters, although Barry Keoghan is like kind of already around as like one of the fresh faces. And then kind of the rest of it is you're just following all the different members of this squadron as they're going throughout it. So like it's always weird for me to like describe like what these kind of shows are, because it's not like a vibe show, it's not like a hang show, but it doesn't really have like a story or a focus. Like it's not really like a movie. Like it is still a show, but like
it's more like you're placed at this period of in time with these people. Here's what they do
exactly
in this time that we're going to cover.
Exactly. And like, it's always interesting to me, like watching World War II content, because I feel like every time I see something, it's like, okay, I've seen this before, show me something new. And what's always fascinating is that like, I never necessarily get anything new per se, because it's still a lot of the same tricks and tropes that we've seen a lot before in World War II stuff, but like, it's never not fascinating. So like, it's one of those, so like, I'm always curious hearing people's reactions to this, where it's like, because everybody obviously, has a different incentive. World War II was the gateway drug for history, as it was quoted by my history teacher years ago. Is like, at what point, like, is World War II just one of those topics where like you can never get sick of it? Like every time it like pops up in something, and they always kind of take like the same approach. It's never something that like requires necessarily a new approach. So essentially, like what I'm describing here is essentially you've got like a World War II show with like the biggest budget you've ever seen, like ever.
Yeah, and I do agree with you there that no matter how many World War II things we do get, like I'll still be interested. It's one of my favorite periods in history to learn and study about. That and the Cold War for me. So, but yeah, a lot of my favorite movies are World War II related, and this one add fighter pilots to it. Okay,
yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, just from a technical standpoint, like the show has got everything. Obviously, production, vast amounts of crews. I mean, again, like just the feeling. Like I understand. Like, listen, I know that I'm rough on Top Gun Maverick. I am, but it's for different reasons. Like, but I can never take away anything from that movie technically, because like when you're in those F1s with those guys, like you can tell that's real. Now they definitely don't use as many practical effects for this one as they did for Top Gun, but still, like I said, they put their money where their mouth is, because goddamn, like some of those aerial dogfights, like, I mean, I would never insult Christopher Nolan, but they kind of put the aerial dogfights at Dunkirk to shame, because just, I mean, when you see like,
I think Dunkirk had like 2 planes in the sky.
Yeah, I know, but I know, but
40.
you know what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm trying to say. And
it was
like
a lot more intense. I will say,
to say the least. Like that last fight at the end of that first episode, when you see that like the fighter pilots getting like shot to pancake batter, I'm just like, Jesus Christ!
His whole
like,
face comes out. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, and then like the explosions that happen like right afterwards, and it, like I said, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Callum Turner. I really, really like him. I think he's a very, very underrated actor. He's it's weird because like people would be remiss to like forget that like he's been in all of these like kind of blockbuster franchises. Like I remember the first thing I remember seeing him in was Green Room with Anton Yelchin, one of the first couple of like big A24 movies that like really hit it big. And then what's it called? And he also played Newt Scamander's brother in the Fantastic Beasts movies, and I think and that's probably the biggest thing that he's been in. So I really like him. Austin Butler, man. It's so funny that like he is trying so hard to outpace his Elvis persona, and he might be able to do it with Dune. He is not doing it.
When we hear the voice,
when we hear the
if it's like all the Atreides,
yes,
is it going to be like that? Or
it probably like he's gonna have to do a Sting impression in order to get out of his Elvis impression, because I swear the minute he starts talking, I mean the minute you see him too, like just like with the sad eyes and the slight smirk on the face, and then the voice comes out,
and the hair is all
the hair is still exactly. It's like man, dude, I know you're trying to outpace it, but. Oh, he still hasn't escaped it. It's like, oh, Elvis in World War II now, like he is kind of like the perfect person to lead this kind of a show, like he's got like, because the thing about him, right, is that he's got like this old feeling energy to him, but he looks like, even though he's 31, 32, he still looks like somebody who's in like his mid to early 20s, so like he's still like kind of got that gravitas, but man, it's just funny to me, like being unable to see him as anything other than Elvis,
I still see him as the guy who couldn't sing on iCarly.
Exactly.
Like,
which
that's where I was introduced to him.
Which is even funnier when you think about that. And I wanted to give a shout out to some of the other people, because like I said, this is another instance where, very similar to what Band of Brothers did, you just litter this cast with people who, again, you're not going to know them because they're all kind of that guys that are like starting to like just get their, like I said, just get their names and faces out there. But some of the other ones I wanted to give a shout out to: Anthony Boyle, Nikolai Kinski, Stephen Campbell Moore. We got a couple of legacy celebrity kids there. We have Steven Spielberg's son, Sawyer Spielberg, and Jude Law's son, Raph Law, in there as well. You have, what's it called? James Murray. I'm just listing off actors right now because I wanted to give them all a shout out, because like I said, it's one of those instances where, because I don't recognize anyone, it's going to be like hard for me to like keep track of like characters, like who's who and whatnot, because there's so many of them. And I also don't know like who's going to die at any point, because that's the other unfortunate thing about World War II properties is you always introduce a ton of characters and kill off half of them before you even get a chance to like really know them. I mean, just look at the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan that pretty much set that precedent. But it is going to be interesting to see, because one of the most fascinating things about going back and rewatching Band of Brothers is seeing all the people who show up in that show for like bit parts, like right before they blew up. Like you see Tom Hardy, you see James McAvoy, you see Michael Fassbender, a bunch of other people. Simon Pegg is in it for like a hot 5 seconds. David Schwimmer, that's like one of his like biggest roles that he did outside of Friends. And it's just like a list of people. It's like, oh, he's in this. Oh, he's in this. Oh, he's in this. It's like one of those.
It's like Oppenheimer.
Exactly. It's the Oppenheimer. It's the Black Hawk Down thing, where they just have a ton of people who aren't like super, super famous, but they're just recognizable enough. But I guess kind of where this differentiates itself is because there are a bunch of people who like seem like they're famous and are probably like right on the cusp. And like a bunch of these people are probably going to get signed and start doing like a bunch of different projects after this. But like, I don't really know who they are. And in a way, I almost kind of prefer that, because I feel like now it's to a point where it's like I can sometimes get distracted by like how famous and well-known someone is. So when you have a cast that is populated by primarily no names, I know a lot of people view that as a detriment, but for me, that's kind of a plus.
Yeah, with these Apple shows, a lot of the time there is no names. Even with For All Mankind, like I knew some of them, like maybe 2 or 3, but then the rest are completely new to me. So that helps me kind of create that character with them. And if you get what I'm saying,
yes,
absolutely. Yeah. So in this, you have the 2 main leads, and I saw Ncuti Gatwa in the opening credits, but he hasn't shown up in the show yet.
Not yet. I think they're saving him for when they bring in the rest of the Tuskegee Airmen. So if I had to guess, that's probably what that'll be.
But yeah, I'm enjoying the cast. My favorite character so far is probably Crosby, aka a guy who looks kind of like Richard Madden.
Yes, so, Anthony Boyle. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stick with him. I hope he survives for a while.
He's the one who was getting airsick and screwed up their navigation as a result.
Yeah,
right?
He threw up in his own helmet and put on the helmet, thought he was bleeding, and it was very enjoyable moment.
Yeah, like I said, I'm interested in all those guys. Like I said, I'm interested to get to continue spending time with these guys as time goes on. We haven't even mentioned Barry Keoghan yet, which I mean, it's kind of funny how after the last 2 years he had appearing and as the new Joker in the Batman, getting an Oscar and his first Oscar nomination for Banshees of Inisherin, and then and then obviously having like the big breakout, like, oh, now he's like sexy Barry Keoghan in Saltburn, not to mention being the best part about Eternals. Like, it's kind of funny seeing him pop up, like, and he's not even like one of the 2 credited leads, but he's just everywhere. And oh man, like it's so funny, like thinking back in 2018 when he first like started appearing in things like in Killing of a Sacred Deer and American Animals, and I'm just like, who is this whiny little like pug face like guy? And now seeing him and he's like Barry Keoghan, and I'm like, oh shit. Okay then, like he's awesome, and I
wanted him for the Butler role in Dune. That was my pick, but I think Butler's gonna be just as good.
I'm pretty sure they were considering him too, and he was supposed to be in Gladiator 2, and had to drop out of that too.
Ooh,
man, I wonder.
He's got big things ahead.
Yeah, he does have big things ahead. I'm interested to see who the next big director he's gonna work with is, because I'm trying to think. He's worked with Nolan already because of Dunkirk. I don't think he's worked with Tarantino yet. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be able to get into the movie critic because that's Tarantino's last one.
Something, but
yeah, I don't think he's worked with Scorsese yet either. I don't think.
No, people are thinking that Andrew Garfield's going to be Jesus because he dropped out of Frankenstein.
Right. I'm still banking on he's going to get Day-Lewis come out of retirement, because I'm like, who else? You know, he's been wanting to make up for Last Temptation of Christ for the last almost 40 years now. So.
But yeah, Barry Keoghan. He's going to be in a lot of things coming up.
Yes, he will. I'm really excited. Yeah, I'm really excited. And I mean, you look at just the directors that this show got. I mean, they have Cary Fukunaga, who is the director of the first season of True Detective, Beast of No Nation, and No Time to Die, directing the first 4 episodes. Then you got Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, the directors of Mississippi Grind and Half Nelson, and unfortunately the first Captain Marvel, but let's not hold that against them. We all know that they kind of got screwed over there directing episodes. You have Dee Reese, and then you have the great legendary Tim Van Patten. Made his bones in The Sopranos, famous director, Boardwalk Empire, directed a ton of TV, directing the finale of this. This is going to be 9 episodes. This will wrap up in March. The first 3 episodes are streaming now. I mean, oh man, like
first 3 out, and they got the first 2. What?
Only first 2. Yeah, we have the first 3 available on Apple. I mean, let me check my Apple TV.
What? It says the third one's coming out 2nd February. What a ruse.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. I don't know what I was thinking. Part 3 this Friday. That's weird. Interesting. All right.
Third episode looks quite exciting too. They're going to Africa and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm looking forward to the locations where they go. I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to what this show brings. Like, it's one of those things where, again, like, I can't talk. It's why I always like have a hard time talking about show premieres, because it's like there's only so much that we know going based off the pilot episode, you know. But like, you follow the 2 guys, you know, as they're leaving for the war, and like I said, it's nothing that you haven't seen before. That's the thing. It's like they're leaving for war. They've like, you know, got their spirits up. You know, it's like, yeah, we're going to like bring it right to Hitler's door. You know, all that good old boys nonsense.
It's what you've seen, but better, and in TV form.
Exactly.
Which you don't get that much.
Exactly. I'd be interested to see, because obviously we know what Saving Private Ryan did for like Marines, right? Where that's where the opening scene was so visceral that you literally had people walking out of the theaters because it was too much for them, because it brought back too many memories. I mean, obviously the unfortunate thing is that a majority of those of that generation is unfortunately past, but the ones that are still living, specifically the ones that like were around for the Air Force, I'd be interested to see what their reaction to this is, like if they captured like the visceral nature, because just based off of what I've seen, like they got it, you know.
Yeah, like, I'm not sure much about like historical accuracy or things, but they got that feeling out of me, at least somewhat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So with that being said, I mean, like I didn't really get a chance to talk to you. I mean, what other shows, properties, or movies are you looking for going into 2024? You know, we're going to be back next week. We're going to be talking about Argyle, which is you know, a lot of our favorites. It's Matthew.
I've decided I'm going to go see it regardless of.
I figured you would.
Reviews.
I figured you would.
Yeah,
like we because we
have watched the trailer. It doesn't look that bad.
Like, we have to see like what the movie's going to be like, regardless. Like, we have to see that for ourselves. You know.
Who do you think the real Agent Argyle is?
I think
someone on Twitter said it's the cat. I'm living by that now.
Man, what a fuck you that would be if that was the case. But yeah, I don't know, actually. Watch it be like Catherine O'Hara. Watch it be the mom. I don't know. I was just randomly spitballing. That'd be really funny if it was. I also another Apple TV Plus property that's coming to theaters.
Yes, indeed. I remember. Like, oh,
I just realized
Apple streaming release. That's kind of boring, but now it's like a whole thing.
Coming to theaters. Exactly. Yeah, we got Argyle. No, it's gonna be an interesting month. We got Argyle. We're gonna have all the Super Bowl trailers that we're gonna be talking about with you know, when those drop. Finally gonna get our first look at Deadpool 3 and what that's gonna be.
First official look. Yes. Not just behind the scenes footage.
Exactly. Madam Web, unfortunately, because we still have to suffer through because Sony still has to torture us since the playing field has been cleared for Marvel and DC. They're like, yes, this is finally our chance.
Have you heard the latest rumor about Spider-Man 4?
Which one? That like Marvel and Sony are fighting again because Marvel wants to keep it more grounded, but Sony wants it to be multiversal.
That's the one.
Yeah, of course. It's
just make the Kingpin movie.
Again. It's far from home all over again.
Make like 2 grounded and then put him in the Avengers.
This is why Marvel screwed up by placating Sony, because Sony now thought that they had all this power, and then Sony got a little bit big for their britches because of Spider-Verse, and that actually being good because none of the properties that they've made are good, and they're trying to like get it tied with Marvel, and Marvel is unfortunately placated. They should have just bought the fucking rights. They should have bought the fucking rights back in 2016, or rather, they should have bought the rights back in 2019, back when they could have, and instead of dealing with all this it allowed for No Way Home, which was phenomenal. But like, if this is what they're gonna have to deal with every time, because it's like they wanted to be street level because they're trying to put Spider-Man in with like Daredevil and Moon Knight and Punisher and all those guys, you know, and have them all fight.
I don't think we're going to see Moon Knight again. I'm making a prediction that we're never going to see him again.
Supposedly season 2 was renewed, and they are moving forward with it. So, but again, it's like everything else with Marvel now. Believe it when you see it.
Yeah. So for this year, have you? I'm sure you have. You watched The Last Airbender, right?
Of course I have.
Yeah. So Netflix, I think they're really banking on that one.
They're really banking big on that one. Yeah, that's closing out February for us, and that's gonna be a big episode to say the least. Because it's
all releasing on one weekend. I hate that from Netflix.
They always do that shit. They always fucking do that shit.
They never learn.
No, they never learn.
Of course, The Regime, that's in March as well.
3 Body Problem was also a big one.
I have the book. I'm going to read it.
Yeah. Dude, you're going to have to give me the lowdown on what we look. Because listen, I know that everybody shits on Benioff and Weiss for the Game of Thrones finale, and understandably so. But man, When they're good,
but
they are.
This is a finished trilogy.
This is a finished trilogy. Yeah, so we should actually get like a solid 3-season run from them. Like you said, the Fallout show, which is going to be great. What else do I have on my list? Squid Game season 2 supposedly coming back this year. Final season of Umbrella Academy. The Sympathizer is one that looks really interesting.
A couple of Marvels that people aren't gonna like.
That people aren't gonna watch.
Prophecy, supposedly.
That probably won't come until next year. I think they had to delay shooting for that.
So.
What are the big ones that I'm looking forward to? Obviously, House of the Dragon season 2. The Boys season 4 is the big one. Ripley on that. Okay, Ripley. What are your thoughts on Ripley coming out? Have you seen Talented Mr. Ripley?
No. I heard that Saltburn was a ripoff of Mr. Ripley.
It's not a ripoff. It's not. It's doing a similar story, but not the same one. Saltburn is like one of those like kind of gotcha things at the end. Versus Talented Mr. Ripley, what's interesting about that is you're watching that character kind of go through the steps in real time, and it's a pretty preposterous setup as far as that goes. But it gets away with it because of the time period and because of how charming the actors and performers are. So I would very much recommend Talented Mr. Ripley. I'm interested to see how Netflix is going to handle it because I feel like Netflix is going to make it like a lot more psychological than the movie was, which was already psychological enough to begin with. And then, like I said, Disclaimer, and Severance season 2 are the two big Apple TV Plus shows. And then obviously, we'll hear about more shows going forward as time goes on. Also, final season of Bad Batch is set to hit February 21st, and Invincible season 2 part 2.
Why didn't they just release that at once?
I don't
I've
know.
already forgotten about
it.
I
really don't know. Like that was such a dumb move. I really don't understand what the thought process and the logic there. I'm also not a big fan of Robert Kirkman in general. He's somebody who likes to take his time and to an annoying degree. Like it's like he's one of those people that likes to take his time without like really needing to. So yeah, and then as far as movies go, like I said, we got the slate. Like I said, as of right now, the plan for the rest of February, we got Argyle next weekend. We got the Super Bowl after that. We got Madam Web, and then we're wrapping it up with Avatar. March is the big one because we've got Dune 2 finally kicking it off. Long past time that we got
very good things from the very early reactions.
Yes, exactly.
That I've read.
2 hours and 46 minutes, and I
that sounds right.
I cannot wait.
About that long.
We're gonna have also dropping that weekend Spaceman and the Regime. Then the following weekend is gonna be a big one. We have Imaginary from Blumhouse. We've got Kung Fu Panda 4. We've got Love Lies Bleeding from A24, and we have Ricky Stenicki from Amazon with Zac Efron and John Cena, which actually looks pretty funny. Then after that, you've got Invincible season 2 part 2, and then we're wrapping up March. We've got Three Body Problem and Roadhouse. This penultimate weekend, and then we've got Godzilla vs. Kong: The New Empire wrapping up that week, and that will pretty much wrap our quarter one before we get into April. And April this year is looking to be pretty interesting. Like I said, now that like the board has been cleared because a majority of the blockbusters got delayed to next year, like we got a pretty interesting slate of movies and stuff to look forward to. Like I said, Civil War, Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, Abigail, Challengers, The Fall Guy finally coming out this year, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Imaginary Friends, Furiosa. It's Bike Riders is also coming out, another big Austin Butler, Tom Hardy vehicle. I'm looking forward to this year. I think 2024, specifically from a blockbuster standpoint, it's going to be the most interesting in years. Not all of them are going to be hits. Not all of them are going to work, to say the least. But I think we got some interesting ones to look forward to for this year.
Yeah, I think the strikes certainly left some gaps. So
yes,
someone's going to have to step up. We only have one Marvel movie coming out. Only one. Actually, no DC movie.
No DC movies again.
Which is
thank God.
Okay, we need a break until
we really did.
We get the whole new universe sprung up on us.
I think I shared a TikTok. It was two guys going over like just all the ludicrous decisions that they've got. It's just like, Superman, we fucking fired him. Batman is like, who even knows? Who cares about him? Like Wonder Woman, that flopped. So unfortunately, she's not coming back. And they're like, but the Flash, he's canceled, but like he's not canceled it here. So I thought that was great.
Yeah. A lot to look forward to.
Creature Commandos, man. That's going to be...
Is that this year?
That's this year. That is this year.
Okay.
Gunn said he had finished voice recordings and everything during the last couple of years. He's like, that's going to be the first thing that kicks off my DC universe. And I'm like, oh, man. Already getting off to a good start.
That and 4 other Suicide Squad ripoffs.
Exactly.
The Authority and...
The Authority, Waller, Peacemaker season 2, and what's the other one? I'm surprised his wife isn't going to get her own spin-off show. I'm waiting for that to happen.
I just hope it's good because I feel like I like the DC world more than the Marvel world.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we give Gunn too much flack because at the end of the day, he still hasn't missed. Like, it's just a matter of like he's just taken a while to make all this stuff, and understandably so because of how tumultuous things have been the last couple of years. But like, he hasn't missed yet, so like, I can't exactly say that I'm like worried about all of this stuff. Obviously, him being the guy to direct Superman for sure left a little bit to be desired, but like, I'm not worried at all.
I think the first look at David Cornsweet in the suit, that's what it's going to be like. The Kickstarter of the hype. So
yeah, that's going to be what determines it. Yeah. Well, Luke, like I said, we got a lot of content to look forward to this year. I'm really looking forward to talking about Argyle with you next weekend. But before we get out of here, right? So we were talking about this, and I'm deciding, fuck it, I'm making the official announcement now. So there's a particular show that Chris loves. It is his favorite show of all time, and I grew to become a big fan of it. Big fan of it while I was watching it. First couple seasons dragged, for sure, to say the least. But that show, as we are in the year of our Lord 2024, is hitting 20 years this year. And there's also another legacy show that you have never seen before. And
I don't know the ending either.
And you don't know the ending.
It's not great.
Well, so people have heard, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'm telling you, Sopranos had a turnaround. Mad Men had a turnaround. I'm telling you, like, people do come around when it comes to shows that, like, definitively that were not well received at the time. But I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on it when we hit it. So, Luke, for its 20-year anniversary, what is going to be the next big Talking TV recap show after Professor Pat and I finished Talking Thrones about 2 years ago now? Actually, it's going to be this year. What show are we going to start recapping? What's called in the fall for this show's 20-year anniversary?
In the fall, okay.
Yes.
I just need to make sure. That would be the one and only Lost.
Yes.
They're on an island or something, and maybe there's a bunker. I'm not really sure on the rest.
I can indeed confirm that they are on an island. I can also indeed confirm that there is a bunker. There may or may not be some supernatural spooky things happening. Like I said, Chris and I, we did this, the Lost retrospective. It was one of our first ever episodes that we did on the show all the way back in 2020 for his birthday. Chris may or may not be making some appearances on there. We shall see. But Luke, I'm really looking forward to doing this with you. I'm looking because this is the type of show that, like, just appeals to you specifically. Like, this is like a you kind of a show, and I'm so looking forward to breaking down. Like I said, we're going to be going diving deep into each one of the characters, because like I said, the other thing too is, like, it kind of, like, fits itself perfectly for us in order to, like, break down the characters, because every one of the episodes has flashbacks to one of the certain characters. I'm looking forward to breaking down the oral history, how the show got made, how it changed as time went on, how it, like, kind of made superstars out of Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse. All the different theorizing all about it. Also, how the show marked a very unique position in terms of being, like, the first show where, like, online chatter about it, like, really became, like, a big part of the show's legacy, which really could not be said about any show before that, even The Sopranos to a certain extent. So I'm looking forward to it. We're probably going to premiere that episode. So we're probably going to start recording these episodes probably over the summer. We're probably going to watch a bunch of episodes, and we're going to batch them all and talk about them. We're probably going to have some more meetings in order to figure out the formatting. And then we plan on premiering it in September when the show actually hits its 20-year anniversary, similar to what we did with Talking Thrones 3 years ago now for its 10-year anniversary. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing your reaction to it as we go. And keep in mind, it's going to be a long road, because there are a lot of episodes, those first 3 seasons. They shortened them down for the last couple, thankfully, but that first season is 25 episodes.
They're what? How long are the episodes?
And they're an hour long.
An hour.
They're about 40 to 50 minutes each, because it's like, hour long.
The Gilmore Girls length.
Exactly. So and don't worry. Well, when they have, like, multiple part episodes, because they have, like, multiple part episodes, we'll probably just hit them all in, like, one. So it's like the pilot is 2 parts, but we'll probably just cover that all, like, both those 2 episodes in the first episode.
You just tell me what to watch, when to watch it, and then we will talk about it.
It's going to be good. I'm really looking forward to it. So with that being said, Luke, like I said, we kind of deviated a little bit, but you know what? Who cares? It's you and me, and we haven't done a solo episode in a minute. So before we get out of here, what did you give Masters of the Air, the first 2 episodes?
I would give it a strong 4 stars.
Yeah.
It's only the first 2 episodes. You can't really do much better than that. So I'm thinking by the end, we could be looking at, like, a solid 9.
Yes, I would tend to agree as well. Same. 4, close to 4.5. But like I said, I need to see more from it before I determine. But I'm very, very impressed with what I've seen so far. So with that being said, Luke, thanks for coming on. A little bit of a shorter episode today, but still, it's always great having you on. Like I said, we're going to have you back on next week to talk about Argyle, and we're going to find out who truly is Agent Argyle. And like I said, we're going to have you on for a bunch more episodes throughout this year, as we are officially in our 6th season, which means we are halfway to our 12 seasons in a short film proclamation. Luke, where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
Actually, this week is very relevant, because on my YouTube channel, I have been assembling my top 10 movies of the year that has passed. I'm in the next process is the recording, and then the editing will be actually quite short. So follow me at Look Reviews on YouTube. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. A lot of editing in this one.
Like I said, always stay tuned. Luke puts out one YouTube video a year, and it's always like
I put out two last year.
I put out two last year. All right, so you're up in your count. You're up in your count for sure.
We'll go for 3 this year.
Yes. Listen, when it goes for 3, we'll see. Yeah, I'm also planning on doing my top 10 movies that are turning 10 this year as well. I'm trying to get that out sometime within the next couple of weeks.
It's a very good year.
Busy. Very good year. Oh, dude, 2014.
Incredibly impactful for
me as well. That is one of my. I have a very fun. The thing that I always say about 2014, it was a crappy year for me, but one of the all-time greatest for movies ever. And I'm really, really looking forward to sharing that list again. It's a lot, man. It's a lot. There's a couple movies on there that I still haven't seen. Oh man, just getting to reminisce. Like, dude, my top 8 right now are like all automatically bangers. So there's that to look forward to as well. And you can keep track of all that by subscribing to Talking TV Podcast, which you should have already if you're watching this video. If you haven't, though, go click that subscribe button. It's right there on the screen in order to remind you if you haven't already. Go follow us on Twitch. Go follow us on all of our social media profiles. Follow myself at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms. This episode will be available to stream, to listen to on Spotify and Apple Podcasts tomorrow. And as always, people, for myself and Luke, 12 scenes in a short film and watch more fucking movies. And in this case, TV. We'll see you guys next time.